What I thought. Thank you.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's pretty good. We should have one more. Is there one
Good? You feel good?
I feel okay.
Okay.
So
Okay. I'll take
we will
okay.
just
Yeah.
talk.
Everybody feels okay at the beginning. It's a question of, 4 days from now, how you're feeling.
Yeah, I got the wides covered.
Which is our camera?
All of them.
Okay. Okay. Who should I be talking to? Okay.
Where do I look? Towards the cameras, towards you, doesn't matter.
Think towards me. If you do want to look at the camera, look at the one in the middle. But
Did he know?
yeah, we'll talk. I just want to do the intro
Okay,
to the
I see.
camera and then we'll chat.
Yeah, I got it on the top. I'm just looking for stuff. It doesn't show it. Yeah, we'll show it there.
We have a timer?
As long as you see red on the, they're working on it.
Okay.
9 seconds. You'll see the timer close to counting you.
Okay, great.
5, 4.
Good morning from Automate. My name is Brian Heater. I am the managing editor of A3. This is our first panel of the show. Denise Stafford from KUKA. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So you have a talk tomorrow at 8 a.m.
That's correct.
Just give me sort of the top level, what you're going to be chatting about.
So we have now mobile robots, AMRs, for over 10 years. So we developed a lot of knowledge over the years. So I want to talk about what we learned over the 10 years, what you might want to look at if you want to integrate a mobile robot in your factory.
We were talking a little bit before, and the big C word for you is collaboration, right? I mean, like across the board, and that applies to everything. So human robot, robot robot. What role do you see? Well, hang on a second. So when you say collaboration, what do you mean specifically?
So I think nobody can be alone anymore and just do her own thing, right? So if you want to put automation in your factory, you want to collaborate with an integrator, with a tech partner, with the people in your company. And then as KUKA, we collaborate with a lot of tech partners, integration partners. So for example, if you go to our booth, all of the applications are done by our partners. So collaboration is like everywhere. And if you look at the whole show, it's connection, collaboration, right?
Yeah, I mean, you make AMRs, obviously you make robot arms, but at the end of the day, you can't assume that everybody is going to be using just your systems. You need those partners integrated as well.
Exactly. And typically what robotics company do, you give them a robot, right? And then you have to make it application specifics because there are so many applications out there now, right? Palletizing, semiconductor, welding, that it would be impossible to have all these solutions. So that's why you have to collaborate.
Yeah, everybody's talking general purpose now, right? Humanoids think, but you see the future continuing to be these kind of purpose-built robots?
I mean, I see more and more standardization too, right? So talking about palletizing, right? So in the beginning, 10 years ago or something, everybody built their own palletizing application. Now you have standardized cells, so that makes it easier specifically for small and mid-sized companies to have it.
So again, obviously,
Your attention, please.
obviously the hard conversation that people have to have when they're bringing robots on is what that means for the future of humans' jobs. So how do you keep the human on board, invested and interested from the outset?
So I would say we have to learn to really embrace technology and the human. And what I mean with that, if I'm a company owner and I'm thinking about automation, I should also think about the people who are working right now on this process, because they have valuable insight, they're doing this forever. And also you want to have them on board because you still need them. So we don't replace really anymore anybody. We need the workers to do other things, but we have to prepare them for that, right? So we have to upskill workers, but also, again, they have valuable insight. So I really want to kind of make them part of my project from the very beginning. And companies who do that are very successful with that.
I was having a conversation with somebody recently, and they were talking about Gen Z. Obviously they're entering the workforce right now, and what's been really interesting to me is it seems like more than ever before people are interested in trade school, right? Entering the workforce that way. But obviously, if they're going to enter the workforce and they're going to work a blue-collar job or a factory job, they need to know how to work with robots. So what can the education system do, and what can companies do to, as you said, upskill workers?
Actually, I think that it will help the industry that we do have automation and robotics and technology, because the new generation grows up with that, right? They grow up with screens. So our new software system, which runs all of our robots, it's cloud-based, it's web-based, and I can program everything on a PC. So that attracts people working with robots because they're used to working with a laptop. And more universities, colleges actually do have robots so that they can give them like the basic education about that.
Obviously, there's a lot of people right now who are working those jobs, whose jobs are going to evolve. What are companies doing enough right now to prepare their human workers to work alongside the robots?
That's a good question. I think it really depends. I think some are really good, and some might want to catch up on that.
Who's a good example of somebody who's doing it really well right now?
So one of the big shipping carriers, I don't honestly recall which one it was.
Like a logistics.
One of the big logistics companies. They actually have programs when they bring in new technology. They have like simulation they set up so that the workers can in a simulation test it out, because they do not want to bring anything inside that they cannot handle or they don't like. So they really embrace this from it's in their process. Bring new technology in, simulate or test or demo, and then people can touch and feel or have an understanding what it is, and then they give feedback, and that's part of their decision-making process. So that's a very good example.
That's super interesting. Usually when we talk about simulation or robotics, we're talking about training the robots.
Right.
But you're saying there's an aspect of that as well that actually gets people used to using these automated systems with the lowest risk possible.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah. What kinds of simulations are they using? I mean, are they using like standard robotic simulators to train the workers?
It really depends on the technology, right? If you talk about robots, then you have this simulation, and then more and more is with VR technology, right, where you can simulate. So you can now set up a simulation and with VR glasses, goggles.
Yeah.
And then they can actually walk this technology.
Yeah. So it seems like teleop is probably going to continue to be a part of this to a certain extent. Everybody's obviously talking about augmented reality. That will probably play a role as well. One of the big conversations that's happening right now, and like thankfully, is the safety conversation. Especially, again, I know we're not really touching on humanoids very much right now, but one of the big things about having a general purpose robot is it's meant to be like there alongside people. And increasingly the robots themselves are coming out of the cage. Obviously they're going to be walking alongside AMRs, they're going to be walking alongside automated forklifts. Is enough being done right now to ensure human safety alongside robots?
I would say yes. And I would say this is not your key problem anymore. So if I now talk about my AMRs, right? So they are safe. But what will they do to be safe? They will stop, right? So now you have productivity issues. Now going back to collaboration, you have to collaborate with your workforce so that maybe they leave the robot alone, not for safety, but for productivity reasons, right?
I like to leave people with like a big, broad question. So obviously we're all talking about domestic manufacturing right now. But, the world's in a very interesting place on that front. So Let's focus on the U.S. specifically. 5 years from now, how does the warehouse or the factory of the future compare to today?
Honestly, I don't see a big like, wow, it's totally different.
Yeah.
What I see happening, so I'm in this industry for nearly 20 years. It's like a constant evolution.
Sure.
So 5 years from now, I think you will have more and more companies knowing how to use automation, have automation, more and more people understanding it. You will have more like these standardized cells about talked about you. So I think it's more an evolution than a revolution in 5 years.
Well, Denise, thank you so much. You can catch Denise tomorrow at 8 a.m. She'll be expanding on these things that we've been talking about today. You can catch me again at 10:55. We will be talking about the future of 5G with Jan Diekman of Ericsson. I'll be back at 3:20 to talk to John Bubinkovich of ABB. And let's see, what else? Tonight, coming up at 5:15, if you're on site, you can come to the Automate networking party. You can register for free and find all of the details and info on our website. It's automateshow.com. Thank you. Denise, thanks so much.
Thank you for having me.
Ding.
Yeah.
Are you getting it now?
Well, we have to go live check We
Yeah.
are live. We're live
We're-
right now.
yeah. Are we getting it now?
Do we have any potential, like, what it could be?
Yeah.
We're looking at it, yeah. We got it right. That's why we're asking if you can hear it right now.
Yes. See if we can get one. Still not working?
I don't know. Is anyone checking the stream?
Where can you see it? Like,
It's just this movie that's not giving us audio.
If you look at Automate Show on YouTube.
That's what
Automate Show, yeah. I was streaming it on LinkedIn and it was.
It's just this. Everything's working. It's this video. So I'm just testing the video. The video you hear? Okay.
It's just this movie that's not giving us audio. It's getting us.
Yeah. We got it.
Hold on.
We're getting it. We'll figure it out.
One minute.
Hello everyone and welcome to Automate Show, and this is my guest today, Andrew Perkins.
Hi, Jim.
Hey Andrew, welcome to Automate, and Andrew is with TrueLight, and they're an exhibitor here at the show. Andrew, can you tell us a little bit about what TrueLight is showing at the show, and give us an idea of what they're going to see in your booth?
Sure, so TrueLight, we are an integrator that specializes in machine vision, specifically for quality inspection and advanced robotic guidance. What we've brought to Automate this week is a demonstration of a capability that we've developed with a partner, LMI. They've invited us into their booth, number 5400, to show the inspection of robotically applied MIG welds. The thing that's interesting and unique about what we've brought to Automate this week is we're using three-dimensional imaging combined with AI, so kind of the best of both worlds to come up with a solution that we believe is superior and compelling and something manufacturers are going to want to see and know more about.
Andrew, can you tell us a little bit more about TrueLight as well? TrueLight's kind of a new company, correct?
Yes, it is. TrueLight is a new company. So we are born out of Boss Innovations Incorporated. So we are a Canadian systems integrator that started in 1996 and has been gradually, progressively adding technology capabilities. 2019 was when Boss really cemented its expertise in machine vision. And then last year we made the decision to spin off that capability into a separate business unit called True Light, in part so we could give vision, the trend AI, the focus it needed to be the main thing for True Light, where for Boss it was a smaller part of a much larger, capable company. At True Light, vision and AI becomes the main thing.
So TrueLight is a new company, but you're not a new person in this industry. What are some of the trends that you've been seeing in machine vision over the last little while?
Absolutely. So, and it speaks to partly why we brought the demo we did, but we're seeing the realization, lots of people have tried machine vision. Machine vision is not new. It's been around for quite some time. But the reality is two-dimensional inspection is just sometimes not good enough. And then three-dimensional inspection, there are drawbacks when you're approaching it from a traditional non-AI way. And so the ability to take three-dimensional imaging and pair that with AI processing, you really get the best of both worlds. And that's a new trend, in part because you have a solution that's blind to surface condition. And so we don't have to worry about the coloring of those welds. Any kind of discontinuities will be picked up because we're looking at the profile of that part, measuring it from a Z perspective.
Well, tell us a little bit about the part you brought.
Yeah, so this is representative of a project we did. So we have lots of confidentiality agreements with customers, so we can't show their parts. So we had Boss, capable machine shop, build some representative sample parts. So this is representative of an automotive subcomponent that is being welded together, 2 separate parts and then 4 MIG stitch welds. And then the customer we had to apply this technology for, they had 16 unique defect types that they wanted to inspect every weld for. And then the results of that weld would be stored in a database and trended back to them in short and long-term data.
And so are those four good MIG welds?
Good question. In this case, this is an example of a rollover defect. So we've actually got a bunch of different defect types, a bin of parts over there that we can throw into the system and see how it detects. So this would be an example of a no good part for this particular application.
And how important is it for your customers to have this database?
From a quality control perspective, in the short term, it's critical to know that the parts you're making today are of the quality you need to fulfill your requirements and your contracts. And then long term, to have that evidence collected, that if you do need it, in the case of a warranty claim or something like that, you can go into that database, pull that traceability data, and have that clear sign that your quality operating system is doing what it's supposed to do.
So tell us a little bit about the demo that you have in the booth. You've got a robot, you've got a laser or camera from LMI, of course.
Yeah, so the integration piece of it is we have to apply this technology and make it work. So for our 3D AI weld inspection solution, you've got the 3D laser profiler for LMI, the Educator, that's kind of the centerpiece, and it needs motion to be to function, so to scan over that weld. So in our demo, we're using a robot, in this case from ABB, one of their GoFac cobots, to showcase the motion that is required to scan that part. And then you need a control system to collect the data. We use our proximity smart support system that Boss has developed primarily for remote support to collect those analytics and then share that back to the operator so they have the ability to agree with the result or train it if they need to.
So tell me a little bit about proximity.
Yeah, so proximity is another thing born out of necessity, and innovation is sometimes the thing that comes from that. When COVID hit, and Boss was growing and our footprint was growing, and we had machines not just going into southwestern Ontario but all over North America, including a large line going into Flint, Michigan. We needed a way to support that machine, put the pendant in the hands of our robot programmers, the Ethernet cable connected to our PLC programmers' laptops without them physically being there. And so that drove the need to develop a solution, and we found ourselves using that remote connection to pull data to prove to ourselves that the machine was doing what we said it would do, or to prove to our customers that it was doing what we said it would do. And that turned into the opportunity to take that data, containerize it, and give it back to them in different ways that might be meaningful to a production audience, a maintenance audience, a quality control audience, or even a plant manager.
So do you use proximity on your own machines at Boss?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So it starts off as we use it to prove it out to ourselves.
Right.
So a big part of getting that machine done on the floor at Boss before we will take it to a customer's facility and prove it out there is getting that data collected to prove that it's running at the rate, at the level of quality that we committed to, so that it makes that transition as smoothly and as efficiently as possible.
Now TrueLight, you're in your own separate building, correct?
We are. We've moved about 2 to 5 minutes away, depending on the traffic at Veterans Memorial in London. But we do have our separate facility, but when we're commissioning projects on the Boss floor, we're very close, so most of my team is on the floor at Boss today working on projects.
And so are you seeing any other interesting things happening in machine vision, new lenses, new lighting?
Yeah, so the training of AI models is becoming really interesting. One of the biggest barriers to AI really taking off in machine vision is the requirement of sample parts to train.
Right.
And sometimes that means asking for physical sample parts. And many times the machine that's making those parts is what you're producing for that customer.
Right.
So waiting for those sample parts to get started can be a painful thing. And so there's a lot of opportunity and innovation happening in synthetic images and artificial images, generative AI, to get you those images, those sample images, to at least get started quicker and make you a much easier company to work with for your customer and your integrator partners.
I think it's a really good point to talk to manufacturers about. It's like, hey, do you have enough good parts to give to your, in your case, into TrueLight, so that we can have enough to make.
Absolutely. And we often encourage customers when they're interested in this type of technology, if they're serious, as a gesture of that, start saving those defect parts, because those are gold for the training. And especially those edge cases, the ones that are the really small ones that are going to be tough to find, save those. That can sometimes be a challenge if they can recycle their parts and they can get value back. So in that case, save them as long as you can. We'll give them back to you and you can recycle them at that point.
Oh no, that's good. So is there anything we forgot to talk about today?
Well, I would encourage anyone that heard something today that's interesting to feel free to pop by booth 5400 to talk to our colleagues at LMI or myself or my teammates from TrueLight. We can talk about machine vision, the integration side of it, which is how you take the cool technology you see here and actually make it work in production.
And how can people, if they're listening at home or so, get in touch with you?
Yeah, you'll find us at truelightmachinevision.com is our website, and we also have a LinkedIn and a YouTube channel that you can connect with us there. And then I'm on LinkedIn, Andrew Perkins. I'd be happy to connect with interested parties and start and see where you're at and how we can meet you.
Andrew, thanks for coming in today.
Jim, thank you for the interview. Thanks for your time.
Oh, Jesus. Oh, they just picked me up saying Jesus fucking Christ on the stream.
What's that?
I just said Jesus fucking Christ on the stream.
I thought you muted them.
I thought I did. Everything's just great. I'm trying to fix these stupid roll-ins because they're not working. I don't want... There's probably another one. We don't know. They changed it. Why am I not getting...
I believe so.
Yeah, we can set it 15.
Yeah. It was going from the last one. So the audio is better from last time?
The audio for the stream is currently working, but not the video. So that's what I'm working on now.
What now?
I don't know.
camera.
4, 3.
Hello everyone and welcome to Automate Live. My name's Jim Beretta and I'm here with Marion Schneider from Planer Motors, and he's an exhibitor here at the show. So welcome to Automate Live.
Yeah, thank you, Jim, for having me.
So Marion, how'd you get into this industry? Have you been into automation in a while?
So I am actually pretty fresh in the industry, I want to say. I graduated with my master's about a year and a half ago. So this is my first job in the industry. But yeah, I have a background in mechatronics engineering. And so, yeah, I got into the automation industry. By now, I would say I've developed quite the skill set, and am working as a applications engineer at Planer Motor now. And I love it. It's great.
So tell our audience a little bit about Planer Motors, and it's located in Richmond, BC, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, we're based in Richmond, just outside of Vancouver, BC. All of our development and production happens there, and then we ship into the entire world, basically. Yeah, Planer Motor, we are a company that manufactures and produces a smart 6 degree of freedom magnetically levitating motion platform. So that's a mouthful. Yeah, we're basically, we have this platform here. Our flyways, that's the stator, if you want to compare it to a traditional linear motor.
Can you show me a stator?
Yeah, absolutely. So this here is the stator. It looks pretty boring from the top. Underneath, you'll see we have our power connections, communications, and built-in cooling channels for liquid cooling. Generally not required, but if needed, we can add it. Yeah, and then inside, there is a bunch of coils which we energize, we run current through them, and that creates a dynamic magnetic field. And then the counterpart that is moving in the end, that is our X-Bot. These are completely passive. There's really only permanent magnets inside, no electronics or anything. And so once this, like all of this is plugged in, the magnetic field that's created by the stator, by the flyway, that will have full 6 degree of freedom control over my X-Bot. And so
what is the height of the levitation?
Yeah, so
this is a conveyor system, right? Like oftentimes used as a conveyor system in our industry, right?
That's right, yeah. We are, yeah, a conveyance system. We're more than that, I would say. Like, we don't only go from point A to B, but we actually do processes and like the work that happens in the different workstations on the mover, and we utilize the movement and all 6 degrees of freedom to do these like processes. But yeah, levitation height, generally our standard is 1 millimeter.
Mm-hmm.
That's enough to be fully friction-free. There's no wheels or bearings or anything. We're actually floating, which means no abrasion, no particles. It's a super clean technology. Also no maintenance. We have 0 mechanical components inside. It's all solid state electronics. And then we can go up to 4 millimeters in levitation height with our 3 series, and then our 4 series, which is kind of like just a scaled up version, a bigger version, that allows us to run a bit more energy efficient. With that one, we can go up to 5 millimeters.
And what's kind of cool about this is that they're square, and then you can build any type of, you could build a runway, you could build like almost a precision dial if you want to think about it like that. What industries are using Planer Motors?
Really a really wide variety. So general industrial automation, wherever you have that, you will find Planer Motors by now. Industries that have been going strong for us have been pharma, beauty, cosmetics, that kind of stuff, food and beverage, semiconductors, automotive, consumer electronics, yeah, you name it.
And because there's no particulation, you can be in medical device, you can be in clean room,
That's right.
But can it be wet, the industry?
Absolutely, yeah. So the product, as it's standing right here, has an IP rating of 65, 67. So any like dust, water, oil that's dripping onto the system, no problem. And then for those applications in, let's say, clean room or hygienic applications where we need to sanitize the whole thing on a regular basis, we offer the Xbots wrapped in stainless steel basically as a hygienic version, and then we're able to also cover the entire system, like our stators, with stainless steel, and then we can get up to an IP69K rating, full washdown capability.
And one of the cool things about your videos, and I know the product, of course,
Yeah.
is that you can spin.
That's right, yeah.
And can you tell our audience a little bit about the speeds that you can spin at and the speeds that you can traverse, and you're fully programmable, right?
Yeah, that's right, yeah. So each XBot is fully individually controllable. Each one has their own unique ID, so we can differentiate which one is which one, and if you have different products on the same line, for example, that's important. But yeah, like I said in the beginning, we have full control over all 6 degrees of freedom, so we can move in X and Y at 2 meters per second with 2g acceleration. We can tilt around X and Y. That's, of course, depending on the size of the XBot, so the bigger we get, the less tilt we have.
Right.
And then rotation, we can rotate a full 360 degrees when we're at the center of the flyway. And with that, we can get up to somewhere around 700 RPM. Yeah, it's honestly...
More than you need.
Exactly, yeah.
And what applications, like you're in a lot of industries, like in every industry,
Yeah.
what applications are you seeing? Because this is kind of like a robot, so I can imagine with dispense, you don't need a robot anymore because the planar motor acts as a robot, correct?
Exactly, yeah, yeah. So what you said, dispense, that's something that we see all the time pretty much. Fill finish in the pharma industry, glue dispensing, things like that. Where, yeah, basically your dispense head now can stay stationary, and we move the product underneath. Assembly is a really big part that we do. So, yeah, you have multiple components coming in onto our system, and then all these different workstations where, like, with a traditional conveyance system, you usually go in one direction at more or less a constant speed, right? And so that automatically creates bottlenecks.
Right.
You have a station that has a long processing time, and everybody else has to wait until that station is done. We fix that problem because we have completely individual and flexible and dynamic routing, which means we can overtake, we can go back, we can go from station A to C to F, back to A if we need to, instead of like A, B, C, D. Yeah. And then obviously we can do that fully dynamically. So based on, let's say, an inspection result, we can say, okay, this product needs to be like reprocessed at station A. We go back there, inspect again, and say, okay, now it's good.
And what is the maximum payload for the flywheel?
Yeah, so we have a bunch of different sizes of these XBots. This one here is our smallest one. This one can carry 600 grams, a bit over a pound. And then we have, different sizes all the way up to around 85 pounds.
And is there any really interesting parts? Like I always think of packaging as a perfect application, right? Because you've got so many places where you said, hey, this is a bottleneck. Well, not anymore.
Exactly. Yeah, packaging, that's another industry, let's say, that we're in. Creation of mix packs, reorientation of parts, like with this rotation that we can do, short edge versus long edge leading, things like that, where you previously required like an extra rotary stage or like an extra SCARA or something to achieve that. We can combine all of that in just our one system.
So I'm assuming that you deal a lot with applications engineers. You're an applications engineer yourself, right?
Yeah.
So you're probably on the side where you might be doing some work with an integrator and their application. What do they need? Like what are some of the questions you ask the applications engineer on the other side?
Right. So let's call it our way of working is I want to learn as much about the application as possible, of course. And the first thing I always ask is, how heavy is your payload? Like, what are you transporting? And that includes your product itself, but also any tooling that's required to hold your product on the XBot. The XBot has threaded holes and dowel pin holes, so you can create whatever tooling you need and fix it on there. And so with that weight, we basically decide what size XBot we need to use. Because the size of the product is really not that important for us. We can tell our system if the product is overhanging, let's say. It's really only the weight of the payload that's the deciding factor. And then based on that, we choose the size of the XBot, and that kind of will tell us how big the system needs to be in general. And our goal is to design the system as small as possible.
Right.
Like we always try to reduce the footprint, of course also bring down the cost for our customers. So we'll always try to have as few flyways as possible with as many XPods as possible.
So I was kind of thinking, you probably don't have to get into other challenges. I'm not going to call this a conveyor, but you don't get into the challenge of turning corners or something. You just put a motor in there and it goes, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. What you mentioned earlier, this is a completely modular product with this square form factor. We also have a version that's rectangular, so that allows you like a longer, like one lane travel in cases where you only need one lane. But yeah, that modularity basically allows you to create any layout that you want. And so we're going away from like the linear production line that I mentioned earlier towards building our system around your workstations in the most efficient possible way.
So now so your process is get the information, figure out how many motors you need, figure out how many XPods you need, sorry, and then send them a quote, and then and are you guys busy right now?
Oh yeah. Business is going great for us. Planar motor has been on the market for about 8 years now, so it's still a new technology, but it's being adapted more and more. And I'm sure if you walk around this trade show today, you're going to see this technology more and more. Big automation providers are using it by now, and it's definitely the trend that I think will develop in the next couple of years.
When your clients tell you about ROI, do they tell you a little bit about, hey, we like the fact that there's no moving parts? Like, literally, there's nothing to do, right?
Yeah, maintenance is a big part. And so while the system might be a slightly higher initial invest, the ROI is coming back pretty quickly. Maintenance is a big factor. In fact, our manual says the only maintenance is wipe it down every once in a while, and that's it. You don't have any downtime. The system runs 24/7 basically. No replacement costs, no repair costs, nothing.
That's exciting. So what booth are you in? What's your booth number?
We are at booth 3646.
And it's kind of funny because we're not showing it moving here, but you really do have to see it moving to kind of really appreciate the elegance that's behind the planar motor.
Exactly. Yeah, please stop by our booth. We have both our 3 Series and our 4 Series. We have different mover sizes. We have our hygienic XPods there, and like Jim said, it does look like magic when it's moving. It's just floating in the air, doesn't make any noise. So got to see it for yourself.
And if somebody's interested but they're not here at the show, how best should they get in touch with you at Planar Motor to get some maybe estimates or whatever?
So I would say the easiest way, go onto our website, planarmotor.com, and then there are a bunch of videos of applications, real machines in the industry, also other demo videos that we did in the office, and of course our email to get in touch with us, solutions@planarmotor.com, and then either myself or one of my colleagues will get back to you, set up a meeting, and learn about your application and how we can help you solve your challenges.
Thank you very much for coming on to Automate Live.
Thank you, Tim, for having me.
We'll see you at your booth.
Appreciate it.
You may have noticed we've been growing faster, bigger, every year, more industries, more people, more impact. Well, in 2026, we're going back to Chicago. Automate returns to the Windy City with an expanded footprint, more technology, more solutions across more industries. Innovation at scale yet again. Now, for 2027, we have a very special announcement. Las Vegas, a new stage for the future of automation, connections to new customers, a gateway into new markets. Welcome to the next era of Automate. We'll see you there.
Equally, connection is at the center of human experience.
And technology solutions can address that.
The best uses of tech are when they bring people together, when they share information, and when they're creating meaning and impact.
Behind every piece of tech is human creativity.
Technology and innovation is woven through the fabric of human experience.
And helps with some of the challenges we face.
It is revolutionizing the field of care by filling gaps in order to support us in the best way.
It's like traveling with a doctor in your pocket.
With the rise of artificial intelligence, it's more important than ever to teach computer science in schools.
You, yes, you.
Because AI is going to change everything about our lives.
Automation, robotics, and AI are the tools that can help us do more with less.
It's not about replacing us.
Embracing technology can give us more time to do what we love, to create, to connect, to grow.
Technology doesn't slow me down. It does keep me going.
The future isn't a distant dream, it's happening right now.
And I'm really excited about it.
The old and the new come together in a brand new way is absolutely mind-blowing. It is beautiful.
Welcome to the age of automation.
Hey Jarrett, I wanted to find a special way to congratulate you on winning the A3 Educator of the Year award. So I had to find some time when you weren't around, super late at night, and put together this little program just to say, congratulations again, man. You truly, truly deserve the award.
Hi, Mr. Williams. Congratulations on your A3 Educator of the Year award. I couldn't think of a more deserving professor for this award. I just wanted to thank you for all the work that you have put into me and to all of your students. We appreciate you so much, and congratulations.
Hey Jared, congratulations on the Educator Award. Thanks for your continued partnership in the innovation in robotics education.
You've been a huge inspiration to a lot of our kids and us, so keep doing what you're doing. You're killing it.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah, thanks.
Hello, Dr. Jarrett Williams. Congratulations on being named A3's Educator of the Year for 2025. I just want to take a moment to thank you for being such an incredible mentor and leader. Your willingness to help, your knowledge, and your flexibility have really made an impact on all of us, both locally and globally. You challenge your students to learn real-world technology and prepare them for careers in robotics, and that dedication is truly inspiring. You're always supportive, reliable, and innovative. Thank you for everything you do, and congratulations once again.
In Christmas 1967, I got a toy robot, and it was a lot of fun. We got a lot of mileage out of it, but over time we started having problems with it breaking down. Frequently had to fix it to keep it alive. So I started learning at an early age what reliability and durability was and how to fix things. Pretty early on, I'd made a decision that I was going to go to university for an education in engineering and other types of design sciences. My very first big assignment showed up in a bag of parts, and it was a brown bag, and it had a bunch of parts that we had to figure out how to assemble those parts. So I got introduced to FANUC at that particular point in time. They had two engineers that came and joined us in this room, and we spread the parts out on the table. We sat down and figured out what was the sequence of operations for putting it together. What were the constraints and what might work, what might not work. That project was fascinating, everything from design to build to installation in a plant. I had not considered a career in sales, and I was uncomfortable with it at first, but I thought it was an interesting opportunity. At first, the business was only with General Motors and General Motors clients. I wound up quickly having to go into business development and work with companies that were outside of the General Motors family. The challenge with going to non-automotive companies to talk about robots is everybody at that point in time thought that robots were a fad. They really didn't think robots could apply in their business. My career at KUKA was the most dynamic from a leadership and market diversity perspectives, which included aero, architecture, automotive, entertainment, and the introduction of the world's first collaborative robot. At Google, I had the broadest responsibilities of my career, including leading sales, local manufacturing, integration, and long-term support.
I'll never forget the phone call we had in January 2019 to start the Vectis Universal Robot cobot welding relationship that ended up being a huge success and really created a new segment around cobot welding that's so prolific today.
Your leadership and vision have been absolutely instrumental in VersaBuilt's success. You pushed the boundaries of robotics and inspired all of us with your dedication. This recognition is so well deserved.
I've been fortunate to have a lot of roles in the robotics industry, and none of those roles would be successful without being able to build great teams. And part of building great teams is to establish a shared vision amongst the people that are in the team about what does good look like, what does success look like, what does it feel like. So I've done what I could to help people find their way, and granted some of it's somewhat self-serving because I wanted to have a high-performing team. But the other thing is I discovered that the more you invest in people and the more you can help them build their capabilities and build their career, the payoff is there many times over, not just for the company, but for them and for others. I enjoy the work that we do at Shepherd Solutions. I enjoy the challenges that we see. I enjoy the diversity of the companies and the marketplaces that we get to work in. So the opportunities are limitless. The challenge is where do I add value? So as long as I can add value and be viable and useful in the marketplace, I'm going to keep doing it because I'm having fun.
As I watched Stu, I really learned a lot of key skills from him in my own career. I watched how the relationship building took place. I watched the kindness and the respect he treated both us and our customers with, and really developed a deep passion for his business and what he did. And I got to say, it was a really tough day when he decided to go become president of KUKA. Was one of the tougher days in our career because we knew that we were losing one of our key resources and one of the key aspects of our system integrator network. And I'm glad to see him back at Shepherd Solutions.
The association, even in the early days of the Robotics Industry Association, had a huge impact on my career. A number of the mentors that I had looked up to were actually members of the association, even members of the board of directors. I also met other leaders and other mentors from other business units and other types of companies within the RIA and learned from them. I find that whatever you give, you get back. That's why I'm very engaged in the A3. It's been great for me, and I hope we've been great for other people that have gotten involved with the A3. And likewise, a lot of the people I've worked with over the years are friends for life. There's been a lot of challenges in my career. There's been lots of changes. There's been setbacks. There's been business changes, career changes. It goes back to if you do the right thing long enough, you hope that it actually pans out and things work. It kind of shows that it does, no matter how deep the hole may seem at the time, that if you keep doing the right things, then good things happen. And I consider this a very good thing. I look at the other 140 leaders and winners that have gotten the Engleberger Award, and I'm shocked and flattered to be associated with them.
You may have noticed we've been growing faster, bigger, every year, more industries, more people, more impact. Well, in 2026, we're going back to Chicago. Automate returns to the Windy City with an expanded footprint, more technology, more solutions across more industries. Innovation at scale yet again. Now, for 2027, we have a very special announcement. Las Vegas, a new stage for the future of automation, connections to new customers, a gateway into new markets. Welcome to the next era of Automate. We'll see you there.
I believe connection is at the center of human experience.
And technology solutions can address that.
The best uses of tech are when they bring people together, when they share information, and when they're creating meaning and impact.
Behind every piece of tech is human creativity.
Technology and innovation is woven through the fabric of human experience.
And helps with some of the challenges we face.
It is revolutionizing the field of care by filling gaps in order to support us in the best way.
It's like traveling with a doctor in your pocket.
With the rise of artificial intelligence, it's more important than ever to teach computer science in schools.
You, yes, you.
Because AI is going to change everything about our lives.
Automation, robotics, and AI are the tools that can help us do more with less.
It's not about replacing us.
Embracing technology can give us more time to do what we love, to create, to connect, to grow.
Technology doesn't slow me down. It does keep me going.
The future isn't a distant dream, it's happening right now.
And I'm really excited about it.
The old and the new come together in a brand new way is absolutely mind-blowing. It is beautiful.
Welcome to the age of automation.
I was born in Melbourne, Australia in 1959. That's the same year that Joe Engleberger and George Devol put their first prototype robot into a factory in New Jersey. The company Univview was founded about 2 years later. I was a geeky kid growing up in the 1960s and I was obsessed with the space program. I wanted to be an astronaut. My parents gave me this book about robots, which may have had some long-term subconscious effect on me. As a teenager, I was really into electronics, and at that time, that mostly meant radios with vacuum tubes and transistors. By my mid-teens, it was digital electronics with integrated circuits, and by my late teens, I built my first microprocessor kit, terribly underpowered by modern standards. It was a no-brainer to study electrical engineering, and I went to the University of Melbourne, and I got really interested in control theory. My first job was at the same university, working for my controls professor, and that's where I discovered real-time computing. This was using digital equipment, PDP-11 and LSI-11 hardware. For an open day, I connected a cheap and cheerful mini mover robot to an LSI-11 and got it to play checkers. That really piqued my interest in robotics, and not long after that, I got a job with Australia's national lab, CSIRO, working on flexible manufacturing cells. This was the mid-1980s. The lab had just been set up and had state-of-the-art gear like a Unimation Puma 560 and Automatic's AutoVision 2 vision system. In 1988, I won a fellowship to spend nearly a year at the University of Pennsylvania's GRASP Lab, and there I was really fortunate to be able to work with Professor Lou Paul. I was nearly 30, I was the old guy in a lab full of grad students, and at that time I didn't have a PhD. When I returned to Australia, I started my own PhD, and that was about combining high-speed computer vision and robotics. I wrote lots of MATLAB code to support my research, and that eventually became the robotics toolbox for MATLAB. In 1995, I moved to Brisbane to apply robotic technology to the mining industry. We automated dragline excavators for open pit mining. By the late 90s, we were doing fully autonomous underground driving. We did early work on aerial drones, navigating using visual and inertial sensing. These were hobby-class helicopters, not the electric quad-rotor drones that we have today. We applied those same inertial and visual navigation techniques to underwater drones. I'd worked on applied robotics research for 25 years when I was offered
Hi, my name is Alicia Gilpin, one of the co-hosts of Automation Ladies, and this is one of my other co-hosts, Courtney Fernandez, and we're here today to talk to Mike Lee from Univview.
How's it going, Mike?
Hi, morning.
So what is Univview?
Well, Univview is a platform that we developed looking at all the current technology change going on. And so when we traditionally deal with small to medium-sized companies, and what we found was that data's everywhere, right? Data is scattered in all these silos of information, silos of automation, engineering systems, business systems, production systems, with all the different specialized software that runs it. Even automation cells that are a whole robot on the factory floor is in a lot of cases isolated from the rest of the production floor, let alone the whole business system. So what we set out to do is set up a platform and an infrastructure that allows companies to connect all the data in one system that allows them to have access to all the information, so then now they can apply all the intelligent tools and access everything together. So such as dashboarding, all the AI agents, analytics, so there's a lot that you can do with data if you have access to it. And one of the key challenges of even AI today is how do you get access to all that data? Because if you don't have good data, you won't get good output. And so that's what Univview strives to do, is set up that infrastructure so that you can have access to do what you want with it, so that you can make your decisions going forward. So that's what we set out to do.
Can you walk us through, if you're going into a new client, how are you going to look at all the systems they have, and try to connect them?
When you look at your traditional company, small to medium-sized company, they're staffed with just the right resources to be able to do their job, to get their goods out the door, to be profitable. But they don't have extra resources to help modernize and make more efficient things. So traditionally we will find people running their whole production floor with spreadsheets. They'll find engineering systems that have tons of data that engineers are massaging to get into ERP and production systems. And so there's a lot of little broken areas that that are very clear to the customer, that they know that those are their pain points. And so all we do is ask them a bunch of questions. We ask them, where's your bottleneck? If you could fix things overnight, what would it be? And so then they tell us what they need. And so then we can bring in all of the tools integrated with Univview, and nobody needs all the solutions at once. They need to solve one problem, and so then we focus on that area, then we jump to another area. So then by the time they're done, then they have what resembles a system that they can work with that benefits them without breaking the bank. Because nobody can implement technology overnight and cause a disruption to everything.
And I think people try to do that, and there's struggles with that. Can you speak to some of those struggles?
Right. A lot of times, like I said, when people are using spreadsheets, it's because it came out of necessity.
Right.
And so when you try to go in and you disrupt that system, then all you get is pushback, right? Because there's the system's working. Why should we change it? Why break what's already,
what's working?
What's working? And so the challenge is trying to find that area where the person or the group of people responsible for a certain area is given the power, and you empower them that whatever they're doing is benefiting the whole company through this additional automation. And so they're the key people that know what to do. They know what's broken. In fact, they're the ones that can help come up with a solution. So
sounds very people-centric.
Oh yeah. We know, you've been in so many environments where, as an engineer, as a programmer, as a technical person, if you can't communicate with the talk on the floor, it's very hard to break in. And so that's what, but you show them step by step what they can achieve with very incremental progress.
Well, I know as an engineer, sometimes you can see benefits of implementing these technologies, but convincing management can sometimes be a story that sounds like, well, we've already applied this formula, and this formula makes us money, and you're proposing that we change this formula.
Right.
So where does management usually see like the where they recoup their costs, where they get the benefit back from making these changes?
Right. And so, in fact, a lot of management got there through the development of implementing the solutions that they're currently running. A lot of managers are the ones that created those spreadsheets, that created that production line, that did that 20 years ago. And so when you show them that through simple automation, through application of a program like Univview, you could when you show them that the ROIs can justify that, the investment. For example, we did a robotic installation of a deburring cell. In fact, we were highlighting that at our show, where a very skilled operator, deburrer, was touching these $500 parts that was coming out of a 6-axis machine, but there was no way around it. Right. And so the person responsible for that department, he knew that if that person, which he had already planned for retirement, if that person wasn't there, then they would be in a lot of trouble. So then we proposed them a solution that showed them an ROI within 3 months.
Wow.
At a better quality, better repeatability, and the schedule that they could maintain. So it's all about working with the customer to find the appropriate solution, right? Because that's where the small to medium-sized companies struggle with. You see all this technology in this show, you can't implement this. The biggest company in the world can't implement all of the technology available here, right? So the trick is in trying to find the marriage between the right technology with the right need at the moment, and so it's a step-by-step journey,
okay.
I feel.
So tell me about what automation means to you.
Well, here we are at the beginning of this Automate show, right? The biggest in maybe the
North
world,
America.
right? North America. And so you walk around the show and there's so much technology that I just saw today. So I think I'm going to coin a new phrase, and I would say automation is the implementation of your imagination.
I really like that.
Right, because you look at all of the neat ideas and the highly developed technology, and technology that we haven't even seen yet, right? But we're experiencing it right now. It's all from someone's imagination, and it does no good just in your head. It truly becomes real when you can apply it, when you can implement it in a real world setting, and that's, I think, the age that we live in is this convergence of digital and physical. So we're in the cyber physical era where we're just seeing so many old technologies that have been around for ages working very effectively till now, but things are changing at such an exponential pace that if you don't take advantage of some of this right now, you're going to be the Blockbuster and the Kodaks of tomorrow.
It is a race
and
right now.
And you don't want to be that, right? And
no.
we all want to be here, and that's why we're here, right? That's why every one of us is here, is to learn from each other, from all these vendors. And so I look at this whole industry as not just competitors, but there are partners, there are future partners to helping us come up with a solution.
Well, I like your abundance mindset, and we were actually talking like at one of those tables over there just a moment ago, and you mentioned, I think it was the Exponential company.
But right.
What is the company of the future look
right,
like?
Right. There's a book called, in fact, my mentor Phil Topham. I don't know if you've heard of him, but he's an AI expert. He recommended a book called The Exponential Organization.
Oh, thank you.
And when you read through that, there's so many topics that just enlightens you of where we're headed. For example, the organization of the future will not own any assets, right? Everything will be leased, borrowed, outsourced. Because if you're tied to physical assets, then that ties you down from growing exponentially. And that's where the industry is. You look at the companies that have succeeded today, billion-dollar companies in a couple of years. What took 100 years of major Fortune 500 companies to achieve, they're doing now in a couple of years. And so, and that's just the start. We're just at the start of Industry 4.0, right? This only started 12 years ago, officially. And yet, we're experiencing so much change that if we don't take proactive action, then we're going to be left behind, and nobody wants to be felt that way.
So we talk a lot about the newest advancements in technology, but can you tell me how Univview looks at legacy equipment? Because there's still a lot of legacy equipment out there.
Like I said,
running.
A lot of our customers are small to medium. They're running production on equipment that they bought 50, 60 years ago. Right. Old punch presses, old turret lathes and mills.
But they're still applying the formula and making money.
Exactly.
Relay
right.
logic.
But they're not taking advantage of all the technology, all of the data that's available from these machines. Just like with Amazon home automation, right? You could plug in a module and turn on your light, from your office, right? You could do that at home. We had inside of a company, you don't know what that machine's doing except for what he tells you at the end of the day, right? So by applying smart sensors, right, IoT, which is a whole big industry in itself, you can get what's going on with that machine without a huge investment, without replacing that with current machinery, right? And so that's where I was saying, can small companies implement technology on a tight budget? Yes, you can. There's so many tools, so many hardware and software tools that you can take advantage of to do that today, not wait till that technology reaches down to your level. For example, like any 7-year-old can find any trivial complicated information on the internet, right? It's through a simple Google search, whatever he wants to find. Yet a CEO of a major Fortune 500 company, you ask him to find 3-year-old data or even last week's data, marketing data, he'll struggle. He won't know where to go. I don't care how big of a company you are. That's the age that we live in. We're inundated with so much technology, but we're bogged down by the legacy. So Univview connects all the legacy data. We connect NAS drives that have 500,000 folders. Of course, those are sub folders.
That's network address storage, NAS drives.
And we can find content within a PDF document, within a NAS drive, within a couple of seconds. Connect all your NAS drives, all your emails with attachments. We can find a PDF or a Word doc attachment, the contents of that within a couple of seconds. So by applying these kind of tools, you as a small company can take advantage of that, of the technology today. We can then take that, feed it through Gemini or whatever AI engine that you're comfortable with, and then give you more analytics off of that. So there's so many ways that you can take the incremental step to achieving that if you don't do it, then you're going to be left aside. That's
how does a customer know, or how does a manufacturer know that they're ready for Univview? Is there a ready?
Well, we all know, everyone knows what their organization is structured, and if you're using a spreadsheet to run your production,
people are.
If you're using a cloud drive to share your documents, if you're using email to notify people of what's going on, then you'd better start looking, and you can start with us.
Excellent.
Your data is valuable. Get it.
Right. Your data is your most valuable asset in your company today.
How can people contact or get in contact with Univview?
Well, we have a booth down in Hall E.
Do you know what number it is?
What's the booth number?
Oh.
It's okay.
Look it up on the platform app.
Right.
There's an app for that.
Yeah, and so I welcome everybody to join us and help us to help you. So that's what our message is.
That's awesome. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for talking to us today.
Thank you.
In Christmas 1967, I got a toy robot, and it was a lot of fun. We got a lot of mileage out of it, but over time we started having problems with it breaking down. Frequently had to fix it to keep it alive. So I started learning at an early age what reliability and durability was and how to fix things. Pretty early on, I'd made a decision that I was going to go to university for an education in engineering and other types of design sciences. My very first big assignment showed up in a bag of parts, and it was a brown bag, and it had a bunch of parts that we had to figure out how to assemble those parts. So I got introduced to FANUC at that particular point in time. They had 2 engineers that came and joined us in this room, and we spread the parts out on the table. We sat down and figured out what was the sequence of operations for putting it together. What were the constraints and what might work, what might not work. That project was fascinating, everything from design to build to installation in a plant. I had not considered a career in sales, and I was uncomfortable with it at first, but I thought it was an interesting opportunity. At first, the business was only with General Motors and General Motors clients. I wound up quickly having to go into business development and work with companies that were outside of the General Motors family. The challenge with going to non-automotive companies to talk about robots is everybody at that point in time thought that robots were a fad. They really didn't think robots could apply in their business. My career at KUKA was the most dynamic from a leadership and market diversity perspectives, which included aero, architecture, automotive, entertainment, and the introduction of the world's first collaborative robot. At Google, I had the broadest responsibilities in my career, including leading sales, local manufacturing, integration, and long-term support.
I'll never forget the phone call we had in January 2019 to start the Vectis Universal Robot cobalt welding relationship that ended up being a huge success and really created a new segment around cobalt welding that's so prolific today.
Your leadership and vision have been absolutely instrumental in VersaBuilt's success. You pushed the boundaries of robotics and inspired all of us with your dedication. This recognition is so well deserved.
I've been fortunate to have a lot of roles in the robotics industry, and none of those roles would be successful without being able to build great teams. And part of building great teams is to establish a shared vision amongst the people that are in the team about what does good look like, what does success look like, what does it feel like. So I've done what I could to help people find their way, and granted some of it's somewhat self-serving because I wanted to have a high-performing team. But the other thing is I discovered that the more you invest in people and the more you can help them build their capabilities and build their career, the payoff is there many times over, not just for the company, but for them and for others. I enjoy the work that we do at Shepherd Solutions. I enjoy the challenges that we see. I enjoy the diversity of the companies and the marketplaces that we get to work in. So the opportunities are limitless. The challenge is where do I add value? So as long as I can add value and be viable and useful in the marketplace, I'm going to keep doing it because I'm having fun.
As I watched Stu, I really learned a lot of key skills from him in my own career. I watched how the relationship building took place. I watched the kindness and the respect he treated both us and our customers with, and really developed a deep passion for his business and what he did. And I got to say, it was a really tough day when he decided to go become president of KUKA. Was one of the tougher days in our career because we knew that we were losing one of our key resources and one of the key aspects of our system integrator network. And I'm glad to see him back at Shepherd Solutions.
The association, even in the early days of the Robotics Industry Association, had a huge impact on my career. A number of the mentors that I had looked up to were actually members of the association, even members of the board of directors. I also met other leaders and other mentors from other business units and other types of companies within the RIA and learned from them. I find that whatever you give, you get back. That's why I'm very engaged in the A3. It's been great for me, and I hope we've been great for other people that have gotten involved with the A3. And likewise, a lot of the people I've worked with over the years are friends for life. There's been a lot of challenges in my career. There's been lots of changes. There's been setbacks. There's been business changes, career changes. It goes back to if you do the right thing long enough, you hope that it actually pans out and things work. It kind of shows that it does, no matter how deep the hole may seem at the time, that if you keep doing the right things, then good things happen. And I consider this a very good thing. I look at the other 140 leaders and winners that have gotten the Engleberger Award, and I'm shocked and flattered to be associated with them.
Hey Jarrett, wanted to find a special way to congratulate you on winning the A3 Educator of the Year Award. So I had to find some time when you weren't around, super late at night, and put together this little program just to say, congratulations again, man. You truly, truly deserve the award.
Hi, Mr. Williams. Congratulations on your A3 Educator of the Year Award. I couldn't think of a more deserving professor for this award. I just want to thank you for all the work that you have put into me and to all of your students. We appreciate you so much, and congratulations.
Hey Jared, congratulations on the Educator Award. Thanks for your continued partnership in the innovation in robotics education.
You've been a huge inspiration to a lot of our kids and us, so keep doing what you're doing. You're killing it.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah, thanks.
Hello, Dr. Jarrett Williams. Congratulations on being named A3's Educator of the Year for 2025. I just want to take a moment to thank you for being such an incredible mentor and leader. Your willingness to help, your knowledge, and your flexibility have really made an impact on all of us, both locally and globally. You challenge your students to learn real-world technology and prepare them for careers in robotics, and that dedication is truly inspiring. You're always supportive, reliable, and innovative. Thank you for everything you do, and congratulations once again.
In Christmas 1967, I got a toy robot, and it was a lot of fun. We got a lot of mileage out of it, but over time we started having problems with it breaking down. Frequently had to fix it to keep it alive. So I started learning at an early age what reliability and durability was and how to fix things. Pretty early on, I'd made a decision that I was going to go to the university for an education in engineering and other types of design sciences. My very first big assignment showed up in a bag of parts, and it was a brown bag, and it had a bunch of parts that we had to figure out how to assemble those parts. So I got introduced to FANUC at that particular point in time. They had 2 engineers that came and joined us in this room, and we spread the parts out on the table. We sat down and figured out what was the sequence of operations for putting it together. What were the constraints and what might work, what might not work. That project was fascinating, everything from design to build to installation in the plant. I had not considered a career in sales, and I was uncomfortable with it at first, but I thought it was an interesting opportunity. At first, the business was only with General Motors and General Motors clients. I wound up quickly having to go into business development and work with companies that were outside of the General Motors family. The challenge with going to non-automotive companies to talk about robots is everybody at that point in time thought that robots were a fad. They really didn't think robots could apply in their business. My career at KUKA was the most dynamic from a leadership and market diversity perspectives, which included aero, architecture, automotive, entertainment, and the introduction of the world's first collaborative robot. At Google, I had the broadest responsibilities in my career, including leading sales, local manufacturing, integration, and long-term support.
I'll never forget the phone call we had in January 2019 to start the Vectis Universal Robot cobot welding relationship that ended up being a huge success and really created a new segment around cobot welding that's so prolific today.
Your leadership and vision have been absolutely instrumental in VersaBuilt's success. You pushed the boundaries of robotics and inspired all of us with your dedication. This recognition is so well deserved.
I've been fortunate to have a lot of roles in the robotics industry, and none of those roles would be successful without being able to build great teams. And part of building great teams is to establish a shared vision amongst the people that are in the team about what does good look like, what does success look like, what does it feel like. So I've done what I could to help people find their way, and granted some of it's somewhat self-serving because I wanted to have a high-performing team. But the other thing is I discovered that the more you invest in people and the more you can help them build their capabilities and build their career, the payoff is there many times over, not just for the company, but for them and for others. I enjoy the work that we do at Shepherd Solutions. I enjoy the challenges that we see. I enjoy the diversity of the companies and the marketplaces that we get to work in. So the opportunities are limitless. The challenge is where do I add value? So as long as I can add value and be viable and useful in the marketplace, I'm going to keep doing it because I'm having fun.
As I watched Stu, I really learned a lot of key skills from him in my own career. I watched how the relationship building took place. I watched the kindness and the respect he treated both us and our customers with, and really developed a deep passion for his business and what he did. And I got to say, it was a really tough day when he decided to go become president of KUKA. Was one of the tougher days in our career.
Yeah. I see her name more in print than I ever say it out loud.
Hey everyone, it's Jake Hall, the Manufacturing Millennial. Welcome to Automate 2025 here in Detroit, Michigan. I'm here with some amazing co-hosts. I have Nikki Gonzales from Automation Ladies.
Hey, thanks, Jake.
And we are joined today with VIA Automation. We have Kiran Karunakaran, who's the CTO. Kiran, how are you doing today?
It's a pleasure for me to be here. Thank you.
Wonderful to meet you, Kiran.
Yeah.
It's great to be here, and we're going to have some amazing discussions today as well, what's happening in the manufacturing space, and really specific in how companies can leverage AI to really be pushing productivity forward, to attract that next generation of workers. So to start off, tell us a little bit about your company and how it got started.
Sure. VIA Automation, we are based in California. We are based in the Bay Area, and the hub of AI, all things are happening, right? As most of you know, AI is the new UI. Because with the ChatGPT and everything, you don't go for a screen and start clicking, you just ask questions, right? So how it all got started is, my background is in semiconductors, so I've been in the industry for close to 25 years. So went around different fabs, this is what we call in semiconductor, rather than factories we call it fabs.
Yeah.
And we do automation in the fabs, so that's where I got started in. And what happened is, over the last few years, the industry is getting complex with all the new chips that are coming in, that nanometer technology has advanced. So you need new technologies so that we can keep the defects minimum and keep the manufacturing simple. So that's where VIA got started. To start with a co-pilot, which is mainly for the industrial automation world, which is helping users to get their production much more faster and keep the process simple.
I love it. So when you look at the manufacturing floor, companies really are trying to figure out how to best leverage data, right? And really the information that exists already. You already have a lot of skilled workers, people who've been in the industry for 20, 30, 40 years, who have a lot of knowledge, and you want to be able to retain that knowledge on the manufacturing floor to pass it to the next generation. So one of the biggest things we were talking earlier was talking about your industrial workspace. You're able to create AI agents where you're uploading information from manuals, operation documentation, real-time data on the manufacturing floor, and then be able to create a workspace almost like the ChatGPT of the manufacturing floor, where workers can be able to access and ask questions. How is that such a big push that what you guys are doing and offering?
Sure. About data, right? One thing is context is important, because the knowledge. So the way we learn versus way the AI learns is slightly different. So let me give you a simple example, right? So let's say I am cooking something, or maybe I'm boiling milk in a kettle, and suddenly the doorbell rang, okay? I just go out and address who is in the door, and by the time I come back, the milk would have spilled. I forgot to turn off the stove, right? Now imagine the context what happened, because the context is that somebody has rung the bell and I have something going on in the kettle, right? So when an AI looks at this data, it needs to find the context. It needs to understand what are the events that are happening. It's not only the manuals that we are looking at, it's the memory of what is happening, right? So when you go to a factory floor, the person who is working on a machine, he would have seen some of these problems over a long time.
Yeah.
Right? Somebody knew. You cannot just transfer the knowledge. You cannot just do a transfer learning in AI here. You have to kind of mimic a human learning curve and let the AI agents know about it. So that's where our industrial workspace comes in, because it has the 360-degree view of what is really happening with respect to machine data, with respect to context, with respect to events, with respect to protocols. It's a whole bunch of things that you need to bring together and have the AI try to be autonomous there. So that's a huge differentiation.
Absolutely.
So how do the operators, I guess the operators are the ones that really bring the context to that data.
Totally.
I've been involved in AI and data analytics for a really long time, and the people, the data scientists, they just look at the data and they're like, oh, I found something.
Yeah.
It's an anomaly.
Yeah.
It's really interesting. But to the operators, it's something that they know exactly why it happened. You know, to them, it's not a new finding, right?
Correct.
But that disconnect has kind of always been there. That makes it really hard for those that can analyze the data.
Yes.
To understand what the context is as to what.
So that's where our AI agents come in. So if you look at the kind of data that happens, right? So you will see hand-me-down notes.
Okay.
So when the shift changes, I'll write something, put in a paper, and I'll hand it down. So I know this next person will look at the data. How do we ingest those content? Because now we need to think about OCRing those content, right? And there will be multiple languages. When you have a factory in Taiwan, like in semiconductors, most of our the work happens in Taiwan, so it may be in Chinese or some other language. You need to assimilate that and give a unified context. So imagine a ChatGPT for a factory. So that's our interface. So rather than you saying, okay, how do I fix the problem to somebody, you'll just go into our Copilot and say, hey, this machine is giving me this alarm. Give me the full context about it, or how to solve it. So we bring in knowledge. There could be documents which are coming from PDFs. There could be manuals which are also part of it. There could be videos, or there could be voice clips. You can just create a voice recording and attach to this particular problem and say, this is knowledge for my factory.
So when you look at these companies, you're going out there, you're building these models, you're building Copilot, where do companies start? I think a lot of times they always hear AI this, AI that, AI buzzwords, but a lot of times they don't know where to start, to really start leveraging that technology and those solutions.
Right.
Where would you recommend a small to medium size machine builder, manufacturer begin to leverage these type of solutions?
The easiest part to get started is collect all your manuals, right? To collect all your knowledge, right? So I'll say there are like your self-driving car approach, right? There are different steps to a self-driving car. You start with knowing what is your area that you are going through, right? Then you start putting LiDARs and everything. So let's do the same thing for a Copilot implementation. So what you'll start with the manuals, right? In our case, you want the AI to be more explainable, right? Because you cannot have a machine shut down on a whim because you will have a downtime, right?
Yeah.
So what we build is a digital twin of the whole machine, and based on the digital twin, you will have knowledge graphs. So the thing that I talked about, the kettle and other thing, right? So imagine these are all knowledge graphs, instances or episodes that are happening there. So what we do is we'll create an initial model of your factory and say in the factory I have 5 lines. In each line you have different machines and each machine have different manuals. That's the easy part.
Yeah.
Right, the PDF, static content. The hard part is when you want to pull in real-time context. So you will talk to the protocols that you may be having there, the historians or the databases that may be there. And then we build this whole digital twin and the knowledge graph, and that's what is exposed to the user.
Okay.
So he has this full view of what is happening in real time, is what happened 6 months back, and what could happen 6 months from now. That's the predictive angle. Correct. So all these things are kind of intermingling together.
So when you say ChatGPT for the factory floor, that's really a very descriptive way, but the chat is really just the way to interface with it.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the confusion for people today as well, is that large language models, they talk.
Yeah.
What they don't do is actually analyze data necessarily. They don't always pull from the right data. So you have a whole system architected behind it. It's just the interface is that familiar sort of chat.
Totally.
Right? Because
totally.
I think one of the big things that stops people from implementing this in manufacturing is like, well, if AIs hallucinate, I can't have my factory floor worker being told something totally crazy, right? So you have a very complex architected system behind that.
Yeah, and it also varies. So we had one customer who had 3 factories spread across geographies, right? So a factory in Germany, they wanted to recover from a particular downtime for an event. It took them 2 hours.
Okay.
Another factory in Singapore, it took them 1 hour. And now you have a factory in New York which was taking 4 hours. So there is a whole variation around why the same problem across the same tool, it is taking this much time, right? To come back to your question, the ChatGPT, a lot of people think AI is all about generative AI, right? Or you can create cute images of a dog or a cat or whatever, right? But when it comes to industrial setting, there is generative part, but what we look more is the prescriptive part.
Yeah.
So why this vibration in this machine is leading to a particular wafer defect down the line, or why that particular nozzle didn't flow the gas at the right time, right? So it's precision AI. That's what I will look at. So it need to be more explainable.
Absolutely.
So when you look at the solutions you're providing between digital twins, industrial workspaces, Copilot, if we were to summarize the 3 main reasons why manufacturers should turn to this in 2025, what would you tell them?
Yeah. So as far as the manufacturing is concerned, there are 3 M's. That's what we call. One is the machine, right? And the second is the material, and third is the method. So you could start with machine, because machine is where a lot of cost goes. Because every minute of the machine going down, it's a cost, right? And then you look at workforce. You don't get the right people now because with the attrition, and when manufacturing jobs are coming back to US, we need to make sure the new gen is ready for that, because they all know ChatGPT, how to use it, but they don't want to go and read the manual, which is a 200-page manual. So that's where the Copilot comes in, right? The second aspect is the material, because the quality is paramount. So you make a good particular product in America, it has to be the world-class standard, right? How do we ensure quality, the defect inspection? Because everybody has some inspection system in the factory, it has to get integrated. So if I created a particular product and the factory has that information that this is zero defect from my product, I'm good, right? And the third part is the method. How can we optimize? We don't want like 50 people doing the same job of a one person with an AI can do. So that's optimization. So we bring all these three things together.
Awesome. No, so if we want to, if companies want to learn more about it, where would they recommend they start? They reach out to you, they go on your website, your LinkedIn. What are the best ways to start those conversations with your company?
Yeah, our website is getvia.ai. Obviously, you can go to the website and you can also reach to the sales team. Obviously, you'll see us in all these shows or events, and we have a booth here downstairs in Holly. Will be helpful. I mean, anybody can stop by and we'll be ready to engage.
Awesome, fantastic. So one final takeaway, if you were to, what's a question or a conversation or a topic that you wish more people discussed in the manufacturing industry when it came to these AI solutions? What would that topic be?
Yeah, the topic would be like how to get started. You had the right question, right? Everybody wants to get started in AI, but how do you really get started? What is your end goal? Is it cost savings or is it optimization? So that need to be very clear. You can do a Microsoft Copilot and say, oh, I have an AI in my factory, everybody can use it, but is that what you really want? You really want to look at the process.
Fantastic. Well, we have Kiran here, who's a CTO of VIA Automation, Nikki Gonzales from Automation Ladies, and Jake Hall, the manufacturing millennial. Thank you so much for joining us for this session. Stay tuned for some more conversations coming up really shortly.
See you soon.
Thank you.
You may have noticed we've been growing faster, bigger, every year, more industries, more people, more impact. Well, in 2026, we're going back to Chicago. Automate returns to the Windy City with an expanded footprint, more technology, more solutions across more industries. Innovation at scale yet again. Now, for 2027, we have a very special announcement. Las Vegas, a new stage for the future of automation, connections to new customers, a gateway into new markets. Welcome to the next era of Automate. We'll see you there.
I believe connection is at the center of human experience.
And technology solutions can address that.
The best uses of tech are when they bring people together, when they share information, and when they're creating meaning and impact.
Behind every piece of tech is human creativity.
Technology and innovation is woven through the fabric of human experience.
And helps with some of the challenges we face.
It is revolutionizing the field of care by filling gaps in order to support us in the best way.
It's like traveling with a doctor in your pocket.
With the rise of artificial intelligence, it's more important than ever to teach computer science in schools.
Well, yes, you.
Because AI is going to change everything about our lives.
Automation, robotics, and AI are the tools that can help us do more with less.
It's not about replacing us.
Embracing technology can give us more time to do what we love, to create, to connect, to grow.
Technology doesn't slow me down. It does keep me going.
The future isn't a distant dream, it's happening right now.
And I'm really excited about it.
The old and the new come together in a brand new way is absolutely mind-blowing. It is beautiful.
Welcome to the age of automation.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back. My name is Brian Heater. I am the managing editor of A3. I'm here with Jan Diekman.
Hi, Brian.
Thank you for joining us. You are the technical account manager at Ericsson. What does a technical account manager do?
That's more my title, but I work with Ericsson Private 5G within Ericsson Wireless Enterprise Solutions. And I'm looking after manufacturers and their opportunities together with 5G or private 5G, which is one of the Ericsson enterprise products. And and I'm so happy to be here and talk about it today.
That's great. Yeah. So you're kind of an ambassador for 5G, is that fair?
Right. I'm what we call a vertical expert.
Yeah.
Looking at manufacturing and adjacent warehousing and logistics.
I imagine your job was more difficult a few years ago when it came to actually convincing people that this is something they need. Is this just kind of a given at this point in 2025?
It is, in a way, much better than it was a couple of years before. But I must say that, of course, not every industry is at the same level when it comes to the adoption of that 5G or private 5G technology. But you're right. When I look back at Hanover a few weeks ago, I did basically not have a discussion, shall I go for 5G or shall I go for Wi-Fi? I think people have sort of accepted that it can be coexisting technologies, but more the question is my operation in need of the capabilities of 5G? That's questions we get. And if I decide to go for that, down that route, how do I do it? That's more the topic of discussion or the theme of the discussions we're having now.
So Wi-Fi kind of supplementing 5G to a certain extent. What role does the Wi-Fi play in that process?
I mean, Wi-Fi, of course, is an established technology with a wide footprint.
So is 5G.
So is 5G, but not as wide as Wi-Fi today. And I think Wi-Fi also has its advantages because it's a huge portion of spectrum. It has fantastic throughput capabilities if there isn't too many devices in the game, and it's unfortunately not very predictable and therefore not usable for some parts of the industrial communication. So I think Wi-Fi is a good complement to offload 5G and let 5G do really the important parts of your production in terms of communication. 5G, of course, can, with its differentiated quality of service, cater for a huge range of different needs of applications. But as many manufacturers have already Wi-Fi in play today, I would say, take it as a compliment, but Wi-Fi can't do what 5G can't do.
When you talk about reliability in the context of Wi-Fi, that's like downtime, throughput, things like that?
It's mainly reliable and predictable throughput. It's predictable latencies, and it's simply not as robust as the 5G is today because Wi-Fi runs on unlicensed spectrum. So there is a probability of getting disturbances, right, from other Wi-Fi users. Everybody can use that spectrum as they wish. In 5G, you have licensed spectrum. That means you have that portion of spectrum for your own use. It's assigned to you for a confined area, maybe, and you can rely on having these resources available at any point in time.
So you said earlier that, I mean, this is obvious, but that some industries are ahead of other industries when it comes to adoption. Who's kind of at the bleeding edge when it comes to adopting?
I think the manufacturing industry, of course, was the first ones to adopt. They were the spearhead of. They were also the spirit of that Industry 4.0 paradigm, right? And they have been, being early means also going through some difficulties as the technology develops. And I think manufacturing is still the industry with the highest adaptation level. But we also see now, for instance, mining coming up really, ports, everything where you have a very difficult environment with large outdoor spaces, lots of metal, etc.
Places you don't want to necessarily send humans into.
Exactly, but also the propagation capabilities of 5G are much, much better. You can't use Wi-Fi in an outdoor port for your communication.
Underground, the 5G network, and that's, I assume that in that case, that's a private network we're talking about?
Yeah, mainly we're talking about private networks here, because what we see is that industries, especially manufacturing, wants to be the master of their data. It doesn't mean they keep all their data on site, but they want to determine how and where to put it to be for further processing or for any other cloud services you might want to employ.
Are there some of these factories or warehouses that are utilizing the public network, or is everybody kind of on their own private at this point?
For manufacturing facilities, I mainly see them using private networks because it's designed for the purpose. The radio coverage is really made for the specific needs of that environment and that production and the use cases they are employing. Of course, there are some corner cases where already today they use slices of the public network for critical operations, but of course many use, for instance, today as a legacy 4G for connecting classical IoT stuff, and that can come from a public network.
I assume that when you talk to a corporation, the conversations are a little bit easier because they have the resources, right, and the infrastructure to set up something like this. Generally, when you talk to like small or medium business, is it more difficult to convince them that they need their own private network?
Yeah, of course. As for every other new technology introduction, smaller business and smaller industries have a much higher hurdle to introduce. They don't have the staff. They maybe don't have the free capacity to do changes towards new technologies. And also, as of today, there is a larger advantage from mid-size to large-size factory plants utilizing 5G than there is sometimes for smaller plants. But it's just a question of the flavor they're using. For instance, smaller plants can go for different other solutions, also employing 5G technology, but not necessarily immediately for a private 5G network.
In terms of security, right? I mean, I would assume that that's part of the reason why people are looking at Wi-Fi, but you're obviously getting a lot more security on a private network than you are just hopping on some large carrier.
Well, I think the carrier networks are secure as well, but they don't cover for industrial security, and that's the point. Mm-hmm. Private 5G networks are not only using the inbuilt security within 5G coming from the standard, but they also build in the industrial security requirements into the part of the network, and that's spot on what you're saying. Industries want to go these networks that are crucial for their production and can immediately cause hundreds of thousands of dollars of loss in a few minutes of downtime or through a cyber attack. They want to undergo these networks their own assessments, and that's where private 5G networks give a much more tangible, confined and controllable environment than public networks do, I would say.
Everybody's talking about AI. Obviously, they have for the last several years. Now people are really talking about it in the manufacturing and industrial context. Is this interest in AI pushing more people towards setting up their own private networks?
AI and 5G are a perfect complement. I mean, you can say, of course, AI works with 5G, 5G works without AI, but the two together is a 1 + 1 makes 3, really, because with 5G, you can feed your models with much better high-quality data that you can easily acquire, rather than pulling new cables, building new infrastructures for acquisition of machine data, for instance. And that's a perfect complement to the rapidly, fastly growing AI landscape. getting the right data available and making the best use of the models developed, pushing them down to the far edge.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, we're still, for the most part, talking about really massive models, so a lot of that has to happen off device anyway. Yeah. Has robotics also been a big driver for you?
Robotics in all of their flavors have been a driver. Like, think about the move from AGV to AMR. Like, AMRs are mobile, so they benefit from the mobility aspect in 5G. They can benefit from the massive amount of data that AMRs can bring up to the cloud to act in sort of a swarm intelligence, finding always the best path, doing constant 2D, 3D map updates, calculating the SLAM centrally, etc. Here 5G and AI are playing a perfect role together with robotics. And I think these technologies will accelerate each other over time.
Yeah, increasingly drones are becoming a part of that conversation as well.
Yeah. I mean, drones have always been sort of the flagship of innovation, if you wish. But we now see really drones getting into real commercial operation. At our booth, for instance, we're showing a solution from Cypher Robotics, which is an AMR with a drone for cycle counting. And that combination of drone and AMR, together with offloading their data through the 5G network, is really a great example for robotics and drones playing together with 5G.
So inventory tracking seems like a pretty big application.
It is, cycle counting, inventory tracking, empty pallet, empty box detection, whatever you wish. It can also be, the data can also be used real time to feed and create your digital twin.
Yeah. And actually, like real-time health monitoring of the systems is a big aspect as well.
Sorry?
Health monitoring, data monitoring, like seeing what the machines are doing in real time.
Absolutely, absolutely. So that is like one of the, I would say, major basic use cases for 5G is real-time monitoring of equipment, of the environment, of everything that plays a role within your production can now easily be connected with a density and a cost that was not possible before.
Yeah, obviously if I'm running a factory or a warehouse, I want the solution to be as brownfield as possible, right? I want to continue to have everything up and operating while you're installing these. So how quickly can you get a private network installed in one of these spaces?
That's a great question. The private network can be installed in, I wouldn't say no time, but it can be done really fast. The only thing that you really need to take care of is to have the right radio planning as for every other radio technology. Once that's in place, you can go for your installation, and for instance with the Ericsson solution, you can have the system as such up and running within a day or a couple of days. And then you can start with the least intrusive cases to augment and add to your brownfield operation and do a gradual move over onto new or move existing use cases onto the 5G. We see car manufacturers that decide to get more agile and to become more flexible and now gradually moving their already cabled environment onto a more flexible concept together with 5G.
Jan, we're out of time unfortunately, but the good news is that you have a panel coming up tomorrow at 11:30.
Right.
You're going to continue this conversation?
Absolutely. It will be giving examples for a lot of things we talked about today. And I'm looking really forward to see a lot of audience there getting interesting questions and having great discussions on stage.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. A pleasure.
I was born in Melbourne, Australia in 1959. That's the same year that Joe Engleberger and George Devol put their first prototype robot into a factory in New Jersey. The company Univview was founded about 2 years later. I was a geeky kid growing up in the 1960s and I was obsessed with the space program. I wanted to be an astronaut. My parents gave me this book about robots, which may have had some long-term subconscious effect on me. As a teenager, I was really into electronics, and at that time, that mostly meant radios with vacuum tubes and transistors. By my mid-teens, it was digital electronics with integrated circuits, and by my late teens, I built my first microprocessor kit, terribly underpowered by modern standards. It was a no-brainer to study electrical engineering, and I went to the University of Melbourne, and I got really interested in control theory. My first job was at the same university, working for my controls professor, and that's where I discovered real-time computing. This was using digital equipment, PDP-11 and LSI-11 hardware. For an open day, I connected a cheap and cheerful mini mover robot to an LSI-11 and got it to play checkers. That really piqued my interest in robotics, and not long after that, I got a job with Australia's national lab, CSIRO, working on flexible manufacturing cells. This was